Hello and welcome to Get Focused with Bill K and Gina Fay. Hello, Gina.
Hey, Bill.
So in this episode, we found this quote, and I'm going to read it real quickly. And we wanted to really touch base and kind of deep dive into it a little bit here. So here you go. So it has hustle, the word hustle, but crossed out, right? And it replaced it with align, and it says, hold on, let me get my readers on here. Destroy the idea that you have to be constantly working or grinding in order to be successful. Embrace the concept that rest, recovery, and reflection are essential parts of the progress towards a successful and ultimately happy life. So, what do we hear? I hear so many times different people speaking about, oh, you have to out hustle your competition, you have to be constantly grinding,
Mm-hmm.
you know, 80-hour work weeks and all these
Mm-hmm.
crazy things. And this goes against all that, right?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
One, and two, it's pretty fascinating, and it's interesting how things present themselves when other things are happening as well, because even I was just discussing this with my triathlete coach last week on Friday, how I do things called recovery runs, and they're called you run in zone 2, which is a slower pace, and then do some zone 3 faster pace work. And I was talking to him about how do I increase my pace for my zone 2, and he goes, you're not supposed to increase, you're supposed to relax during that, you're supposed to run slower. It's important to recover and to go. It doesn't matter how fast, when you go zone 3, when you're pushing, when you're hitting that stride, that's when you give it all you got. But you also have to give it all you have when you do your recovery too, meaning
No, it's not. Give it.
do
See,
your recovery.
this is such an American, mentality. Push, 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 harder, harder. So many Americans are proud to say, "I haven't taken a vacation in 3 years."
Right.
And typically, most Americans are lucky if they get 2 weeks vacation from their job, paid vacation,
Right.
no matter how long they've worked. I mean, I know there are exceptions, but you think about what goes on in Europe. Do you know how much vacation Europeans get?
I don't know the exact, so I can't quote it, but I do understand that, even maternity leave and sick leave and vacation, it's more valued, and it's more, just like, everybody talks about tea time,
Yeah,
right? And you live there, correct?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you experience that type of, everybody takes a break, they shut it down, and they you know as I said earlier, decompress, right?
Yeah, yeah, the same in Portugal. I remember being in Portugal with my ex-husband, my son's dad, and we had two little kids, and everything shut down between like 5 and 8 o'clock. 5 and 8 o'clock, people were taking naps.
Yeah.
Shops opened again at 8 o'clock, and it was a problem with kids who were used to being fed at 6 and in bed by 8. But it required some adaptation. But it was fascinating because people would reopen their cafes, their restaurants at 8 and go till like 11.
It's so interesting to
It's
me.
so foreign to an American mentality, right?
Yes, but I do feel, because I have heard more and more. I was just listening to an interview, and they were discussing how we are not designed as people to say work nonstop for like an 8-hour shift, right? Or for
Yeah.
extended periods of times. And if you think about it, it really makes sense. So if you prepare and then you just kind of like go hard, right? For say 30 minutes, but then back off, take a
Okay.
walk, clear
Okay.
your mind.
Okay. When we first, I mean, I knew we were going to talk about this topic, but an interesting thing popped itself into my head when we first started,
Right.
and that was, let's boil it down to its basics and look at labor. pregnancy,
Okay.
labor, and delivery. Have you been
Yeah.
have you been present when your children were
For each child, yes.
okay? So you see that there's an ebb and flow in
Yeah.
the labor of childbirth.
It makes total sense.
There are contractions that are super intense, and then there's absolute relief where nothing's happening, so you can catch your breath, recover, and prepare for the next bout.
And that's and exactly how you're saying it is exactly how I remember the nurse and the doctor talking with my wife saying,
Mhm.
"Okay, now relax. Now relax. And then okay, get ready. I need you to push. I need you to work,
Yep.
so
But now rest and now work.
correct.
And it's no coincidence, I don't think, that uh, the activity that we're talking about is called labor, which is another word for work.
Correct.
So it's exactly what you said. You've got to replenish. You've got to rejuvenate, recoup. You've got to, because you just burn yourself out. But this is a culture, and I really don't want this to get political, particularly, but this is a culture built on people's slave labor.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up the word political when anything to do with our politics, they do nothing like slave, meaning the politicians. They don't. They're only in session for X amount of the year,
Right,
correct?
right, right.
So,
Right. Well, yeah, because they're a privileged group. They
correct.
don't hold themselves. I mean, we are really serving that group of people.
Right.
The laborers in this country, the workers in this country, are serving the master. I hate hearing these things come out of my mouth.
No, I understand, but
They
I
We
do.
are serving the master class.
But I do feel that there is definitely a more of a movement away from.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I do, and I,
Abs-
I, I definitely feel that it has a lot to do with technology, right? And the implementation of technology,
well,
and
not
especially
that.
social media.
Yeah, not only that, well, yeah, social media, because, Google was the big, trailblazer in terms of how people were working. People
Right,
could come to work when they were ready. People were not scrutinized, and people were not expected to look busy all the time, to feel like
correct,
they had somebody's eye glaring down at them. They recognized the value of contemplation in creativity,
right,
just
and
sitting thinking and incubating an idea, and
and
not
collaboration.
inspiration. Yeah, yeah,
So I'll take that even a step further. So that was like the beginning, right? And again, another interview that I was listening to and talking about where, and you and I have benefited ourselves with this type of work and how to acquire work, right? And what I'm talking about is what's the app we use? Thumbtack.
yeah.
So we have earned clients business through this app, right? and
Yep.
and basically what the discussion was about what they're talking about is where we're headed in society is we're headed to the point where people are going to wake up in the morning and they're going to look at their phone or their devices and they're going to decide if they want to take this job or not. Do I want to work today or do I not want to work today?
So
And
the gig economy.
yes, it's pretty it's fascinating to
Yeah,
me how we are becoming a society of independent workers, right?
independent
We're everybody's
contract.
working for themselves.
Yeah.
And like I said, technology and social media and these platforms are giving us this ability to do that and
Mhm.
to choose whether I'm working today or not working today. Am I working for 4 hours or 6 hours or whatnot? So I do agree with we still have a strict work schedule for a large percentage of the population, but I definitely see a trend
Yeah, things are changing.
going. Yeah. And no matter what any politician wants, they can't change what's trending, right? Because it's already out there. It's already happening. You
Yeah, they
know, I,
do a lot about what employers are accepting, and how that
correct. So
practically runs. Yeah.
so I don't remember if you were here in San Diego when the scooters started to come out. Do
Yeah,
you?
I was. Yeah, just
Okay.
was just as I was leaving. Yeah.
Okay, so it's overtaken
I know.
San Diego.
I've been
Okay.
watching, I'm on social OB and
Yeah, and
so
you
I
see it.
see.
But one of the things that it has done, because so it's created regulations, and
Yeah.
they can be certain places so there were a nuisance, and now they kind of cleaned it up a little bit, and they've
Yeah.
kind of brought order, right? But it's also created jobs. And what I mean by that is these companies that own these scooters hire people, and through an app they tell them where to, okay, go pick up these 10 scooters,
Yep.
take them home, charge them,
Charge them. Yep.
bring them back, and they're being paid through the app.
Yep. Oh,
and
yeah.
and it's just amazing. It's
Yeah.
for, we live in such an amazing time when it comes to things like that.
Well, that's,
And
you remember Cars to Go?
yes, I do remember Cars to Go. It would be
Cars,
parked, you can
yeah.
go. Yeah.
You know, you had an account. If you charged it up, you got some sort of deduction on the cost of your trip.
Yeah.
You slid a card, and it was all done virtually.
So back to the original
Yeah.
about the
Hustle,
hustle.
hustle. Yeah.
We're definitely, I agree with that quote, right? Where we were kind of brought up and headed in a direction of you need to work 80 hours to be successful, to coming to the realization that there's better ways. And what does being successful mean,
Well, I
you
know
know?
said that. That's exactly what first question that came up in my mind. But you say you believe the quote, and yet 10 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago, you said to your trainer, well, when I'm in phase, how can I increase my speed and
Correct.
my
And that
recovery?
and that's what I was referencing, is that so what he explained to me was not to slow it down.
Yeah, so you
And
get it. You don't get it though. You get
no,
it.
I have. That's what I'm explaining, is that prior to this
That's what
quote,
helped you realize it. Yeah.
yeah, I was always thinking that push, 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 push,
Yeah.
right? But
Well, you
then
do. You do that in all your life, don't you?
I do, but I've been learning how not to. So, for
Well, good.
example, I before I would try to stay up as late as I could, get as much done. Now, 9 o'clock comes, 9:30, everything shuts down. I read a little bit to
Good.
relax, and
Yeah.
then I go to sleep. Now I wake up early, so I'm up at 4,
Yeah.
in that time frame.
Because you wake up early that you realize the value of getting to sleep early.
Yes.
You
And
can't, as much as you would like to, you can't, I've never noticed an S tattooed on your chest.
no, exactly correct.
Yeah,
And
as much as I wish there was one sometimes.
yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm also learning how to um try not to put that pressure on me, right? And I talked about this on one of my previous videos, and that's on Father's Day. I was talking about how um learning to love yourself, and if I could teach and show my children one lesson, it would be to hopefully have them learn through me that, love yourself.
Take care of
And
yourself, nurture yourself, be
yeah,
gentle with yourself, be forgiving with yourself.
because I know that's a challenge that I battle within myself, is looking for acceptance and searching for something that it's within me. It's not I don't need to look for it
Well,
from other outlets.
but I mean, I think that you still do feel that you believe you need to.
I do, and that's
You
what
have
I
it.
mean by the challenge.
Yeah, you have a tendency to still
Yes.
be outer directed, looking for reinforcement from an outside source. And
Right.
really, the only place that exists is inside us.
Correct. And that's the point, is me
Yeah,
learning how to
to redirect
understand that.
your attention. Yeah, to turn your attention. It's interesting because if I can find it, I just bought this pack of cards to use at work. It's called Empowering Questions.
Do you remember these?
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
The sneaky cards?
yeah. You still
Yeah.
use them?
Yes, yes.
Awesome, awesome. Um, so I was looking at these earlier, and if let me see. Just keep talking. Talk amongst
Nah,
yourself.
talk amongst yourselves.
No, there was one that really stood out to me, and it just, what you were just saying made me remember, which is why I'm trying to search for it.
Yeah, so it's quite fascinating, and like I was discussing with you prior to coming on here, is listening to previous episodes
Oh, yeah.
and
Oh, we go.
going back and revisiting discussions that we've had.
Yep.
And to me, it's like a journal, right? So
Yeah, totally.
so just like me making Facebook Live videos and posting YouTube videos and my thoughts and feelings, that's my journal, right? So not writing it down, I'm
Sure.
verbally.
Absolutely.
And it's fascinating to see where I was at,
Mhm.
and the few steps forward, few steps back along the way. So, and for anyone listening, if you ever want to, chime in on anything and follow us, we go to Get Focus with Bill K and Gina Fay on Facebook. If you just search that, Get Focus with Bill K and Gina Fay on Facebook, you'll find our page. Like us, follow us, and you can interact with us right on there. We love
Yeah.
the interaction.
And we really would love to share your comments or, even suggestions of topics you'd like us to talk about.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you found the card?
I found the card. And, just referring back to your internal struggle, internal versus external, and how you're working to try to redirect your attention and stuff. This one says, would I be proud of myself if I spoke to other people in the same way as my thoughts speak to me?
Interesting. Would I be proud of myself if I spoke to other people?
The way my thoughts, in the
Thoughts.
same way as my thoughts speak to me.
Well, it all depends on what time of day and what are my thoughts. If I'm running and my mind is clear
Right.
and everything sort of comes a lot
You-
in alignment, absolutely. If it's the end of a long day and I haven't eaten correctly, or then that's when the thoughts creep in, right? The negative thoughts.
Well,
But
when you're vulnerable, when you're not looking after yourself, you're not taking care of the basics.
correct.
The basics are what's most important. You have to sleep, you have to eat, you have to drink water, you have to take care of yourself in order to do anything beyond that successfully. I've said it before, the old statement, you can serve better from a full tray than an empty one.
Yes, and I love that.
Yeah.
And I just told someone probably today and yesterday for that matter that if you want to provide for your children and your spouse, you need to take care. The only way you could do that is take care of yourself first. I used the oxygen mask.
Of course.
You must
Yeah.
put the oxygen mask on first before
Yeah.
you help anyone that's unable to.
Well, if you're passed out, you're freaking useless to anybody else.
Exactly. I love it.
Yeah.
And you do. I mean, I know I do. I tend to lose sight of that at times, but it becomes
So,
it's
hold on.
not as frequent as it
Hold on.
was.
Hold on. So you tend to lose sight of that at times. Okay, and I understand it's not as frequent as it has been, and that's awesome. What do you think um what do you think motivates you losing sight of that? How is it that you lose sight of that? What goes on internally to allow you to lose sight of something you know to be so important?
So normally it's a challenge, right? It's something that it has become a challenge within my daily life or weekly life or whatnot. Whether it be
Be specific instead of so general. I
well,
asked you said I lose sight of the importance of taking care of myself. That's effectively what you said.
correct, and
And
it
I asked you, what is it that allows you to
causes it.
lose, what is it that allows you? How do you permit that? How do you manage to forget that?
I allow something stressful, like a situation with my business partner, cause me to go down a path of not exercising or not eating correctly or something, allowing those thoughts of me not being good enough.
Oh, there you go. So there you go. Because initially, yeah, I mean, that's closer to being accurate. First, you wanted to say it's something that your business partner did.
Correct. And that's what I was
But
searching for, the right terminology,
yeah,
because it's
that's one thing.
not,
Not,
it's me allowing.
well, no, it's what interpretation, it's the core belief, going back to J.F. Benoist, it's the core belief that your business partner triggers the stimulus response thing. You know,
Correct.
because like we agreed, you can put 10 people in a room and line them up and have somebody come in and slap each one or punch each one in the face. So there's the same stimulus, but
Right.
each one of those 10 people is going to respond differently. So your business partner could do or say the same things to someone else without your core beliefs, and they would not be stressed, or they would not lose sight of the value or importance of looking. So you went there, though. You said, I'm not good enough. That's you touched right on the core belief that runs you sometimes and
Yeah,
gets you
absolutely.
anxious.
That is the belief that when something becomes stressful, I go to. That's
It's my
like the
fault. So is
that's
it?
like the security blanket in a sense,
Well, yeah, but
but
it's
the
more
opposite.
like the torture rack.
Correct. But you
Yeah,
know what I mean. That's the
I
that's the
it's
that's
your
the
go-to.
mindset
It's your
that
default.
yes.
Your default place. So is it also possibly not only is I'm not good enough, but it's my fault?
Well, I don't know.
Is that part of the?
I don't think it's as much as it's my fault. I think it's just I go to the place where I feel like the child in the room.
I know you say that so much. So what does that child in the room feel like?
Like I need to sit in the corner with my mouth shut and just listen.
So that's what you were told when you were a child. That's what you were instructed that children did. Because not every child in a room sits in a corner and keeps their mouth shut.
No, I
But
know.
but the little boy in you
Has that
convi-
perception.
is convinced that that's the expectation that on him to sit in a corner and keep his mouth shut.
Right, to just know your place in a sense.
Children should be seen and not heard.
Correct.
And that's, I'm guessing, the culture that you were brought up in your family.
Yeah, I would say when that's what I can recall. Like if something was being discussed, if parents were talking, then it's just like being at the kid table. When the whole family gets together for a big family dinner, you had the grown-up table and you had the kid table. And that was the childhood that we were raised in.
And
And I don't
never,
think it was necessarily, you know, it was just implied, not necessarily. I don't remember or recall being directly told, you stay there, you don't
okay,
speak, blah, blah, blah.
listen, we've talked about this a lot as well.
Right.
What percentage of communication is verbal and what
Oh,
percentage?
yeah. That's
So
exact. I
the,
totally
les-
get that.
the lessons that we learn when we're children are not communicated verbally. A parent doesn't put us on their knee and say, now I want you to remember you are blah, blah, blah,
Yes.
blah, 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 and yada, yada, yada. But
Right.
the size that we get, like the eye rolls, uh, the nonverbal
Or, or
communication.
honestly, just the fact that there were two different tables.
Well, right. Yeah.
There didn't have to be any side. And it didn't have to be a negative body language. It just was the way it was. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, but yeah, that was the way it was. But I'm guessing, had an impact. I remember when I was a kid being really angry about the way I was treated. I was not taken seriously. I was not treated with respect. I was,
yes, yeah, I don't.
you know, you, well, you don't feel were you able to interact with the adults at the adult table?
Well, at a certain age, yes.
Well,
And I
what happened
and I
before? What
remember.
happened if you tried to do that before? Were
I
you
don't.
welcome?
I honestly don't
Remember.
remember that.
Right.
I don't remember wanting to, in a sense, either.
Well, yeah, but Bill,
I'm sure I did.
I'm sure you did. And what usually the way behavior gets laid down is all kids want to interact with their adults. All kids
Yeah.
want to interact, they want connection. And when it doesn't pay off, when their attempts at connection don't pay off, they give up trying. A child in a crib, an infant in a crib, crying for a caregiver, cries and cries. The caregiver doesn't come. They cry some more. The caregiver doesn't come. They give up trying.
Right.
So they learn that there's no point. They learn that in their world, they're not going to be responded to positively. And I'm guessing you gave up wanting interact. You're such an interactive person, and I can't imagine you were less so as a little boy.
Right.
I'm guessing you were all over wanting to interact. And I'm guessing you were disapproved of for that. And it was made clear to you that that was not okay.
Yes. And as excuse me, as we go through this, and like I explained to you, my self discovery is I cannot clearly remember defining moments of like,
I know.
but I can definitely feel that there has to be
Yeah.
certain things that occurred that gave me these impressions,
Well,
because I wouldn't feel the way that I feel.
exactly. And you wouldn't feel like you weren't good enough, and you wouldn't feel like you were some inadequate being that needed to sit in a corner in a room and not say anything because nothing good was going to come out of his mouth.
Right.
And what I find so often is, well, memory can be a defense mechanism.
Well, yeah,
You know,
you close
and
it off, right?
well, yeah, because why do you want to keep remembering stuff that was really painful when you were a kid? Why do you want to, you're not, you've got to function. That can be debilitating. If you're in the front of your mind, you're constantly remembering how painful your childhood was. You can't afford to do that. You've got to live, you've got to survive. So you find methods to get on with things. But what I also find in the course of, the individual therapy that I do with people, after a while, memories come back if they're invested and if they're ready.
Right.
Because the defense mechanism is not going to let somebody remember something that's too painful. I I don't know if I ever told you the story of a professor that I had in England when I was doing my undergraduate work. It was amazing. She um she had no recollection of being sexually abused. None. She was 46 years old. Her husband committed suicide and she found him. He had slit his wrists.
Oh, wow.
And the trauma of that somehow shook her up. I don't know what exactly the mechanism was that happened, but suddenly she had a physical memory of this abuse that she'd suffered
Right. It came back.
after 46 years of having no recollection whatsoever. Her defenses were down. I mean, I don't even know. But it was quite amazing to see that happen. I mean, holy cow. She,
Yeah, I couldn't even imagine. Oof.
she literally fell down in the street. She was walking on the street, and suddenly the pain was so great from the body memory was so severe. She collapsed in the street. And for 46 years, she had no recollection of anything like that.
Well, that's the amazing thing about our minds, right?
Ah,
So
oh yeah,
they're designed to help
protect us.
and
Yeah.
protect, and you know, so it's fascinating. But it all, and to tie it all back into the
Yep.
original quote, that feeling of not
Pressure.
being good enough and
Yeah.
putting that internal pressure on yourself
Yeah.
has caused not only myself but many people to
Oh,
to
man.
believe in this I have to out hustle
Hustle, hustle, hustle.
hustle
And never
but
And the goalposts keep moving too.
Correct. Oh, I could go on for hours about. I was thinking about that today. Definitely. It's like I think back to when I was 20 years ago in the military, and happy as can be on, and I'll use, money as the goalpost, $25,000 a year, and I'm like, woo, and living life, but then start having kids, and it's like, oh, well, we're going to need X now. So then you start to work towards making X. And what is that? And then you get to X, and then, now you need to get the Y, and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's never, you're never there.
No,
And
because what you're seeking is not something that you'll find in the external environment. What you're
correct,
seeking
it's
is within you all the time, but we're
right.
not taught that.
No, isn't
We are,
that crazy?
it's the carrot that's in front of the donkey, and we keep running toward that carrot, never realizing that it's out of our reach and it's not gonna serve us anyway.
I mean, it's just, and the fascinating thing about all that is, my eyes have been open to seeing that. And I talk about this when I'm teaching salespeople. You know, I was always guilty of looking at the sale, the end result, and losing focus on the interaction with the customer, and their wants and needs, and helping them
The relate
make the best decision
the
and
connect.
create, yes, nurture that relationship. And by doing that, and not being so focused on the dollar or the result, your
Yeah,
results increase,
yeah, yeah.
and you're actually happier
Well,
because you're more fulfilled.
well, you've had an authentic or relatively authentic interaction with another human being.
Yeah, and you just, your sense of purpose, and that's what led me to doing what I've been doing now for the past 5 years, and
Yep,
in teaching and helping people.
yep.
Is It's not the result, it's not having the client and earning. I actually, I've learned to go to bed and limit my work, but in all on all actuality, I probably work more now, but it's not work. It's just like this isn't work to me. This is a conversation, but in turn, people listening
Yep.
can help, it can help people.
Yeah, it's work. What is it? Work smarter, not harder.
Right.
Or,
but
or
but
honestly,
but we're not doing this. We don't have any advertising. We don't, you know what I mean?
no.
This is We're doing this because one, to me, I love our interaction, and if sharing our interaction helps one person, then amazing.
Yeah,
So
changing the world one person at a time.
yeah, just like saying hello.
Yeah. Yep.
So I want to get you a couple minutes before you have to start, helping others. So
Okay. So okay. Um, did I know that you put up the episode where we talked to Laura?
yes.
Did you get the information, the three things that she talked about in that session? The book
What?
by Michael Pollan,
No, I do need that because I'll add that to all the information and I can
the
repost it.
the Trip of Compassion, which is available on Vimeo. That's about using psychedelics to cure and work with people with PTSD. Michael Pollan's book is Change Your Mind. And the other thing was foundmyfitness.com.
Found My Fitness. I did see that one, but
Okay,
yes, I would definitely.
I'll text you those.
Yes, and then I'll put those live links, and
Okay,
then
yeah,
we'll share it on Facebook as well. I'm
that,
fascinated with that. I would love to explore that further.
I'm
You
sure
know,
she'll be happy to come back on. And I'd really love to hear what other people want to know, because she's an amazing therapist, an amazing researcher, an amazing networker. So, if people listen to that episode and have questions or are curious about certain aspects of what she talked about, of the use of psychedelics or whatever, by all means, send them our way, and we'll ask her them when she's with us again. And I know she'll be delighted. She loved coming on the last time. So
Yeah, I loved having her in the
yeah,
conversation.
yeah,
Um, I
yeah.
I want to know for myself. I want to open my mind more, and I don't know if going down any of these paths would assist in that.
There's no question about it. How would it
So,
not? In a,
yeah,
in
I mean,
in a therapeutic environment, in a controlled
oh yeah,
environment.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I mean,
yeah. That would be really amazing. I mean, she was talking about the peer to peer. I mean, even though technically it's not legal,
right.
there are people providing that service, peer to peer. So if that was something, she can talk about that in greater length and make, put some connections in place.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Well, thank you.
you're welcome.
Well, thank you, Gina, and it was great seeing you, and
You too.
we'll see you next week.
Okay.